Nagorama Jean Bosco is reading names of the families that were completely wiped out during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Kigabiro Muganza village of Kamonyi district. The family of Siriro Kagabo and his wife Kaitesi Cecilia, their first son was called Muvunyi and the second was called Françoise Ouatru. I remember them, but I can't remember others because they were very young. They were wiped out. The family of Karinganire Calixte, whose wife was Nyiramusirabo Consolata, and their children were all killed. Kalisa Deogracias, his wife and 2 kids were all killed. Emmanuel, his wife and 7 children were completely wiped out. Nyoyita Ejid, a resident of Bugesera district in Nyamatatu village, says he was 9 years old at the time of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. He says he remembers everything that happened. He is the only survivor of the Interahamwe militia attack among more than 100 people that had escaped to a pastor's home. Some of the families were completely wiped out. I remember the family of Gachire. I can remember there was an old son, a lady called Beke, and another one called Mutamari, a young man called Zamani, his son who was the same age as me, called Pirote, and the second last born. Families were completely wiped out and their homes were demolished, which reflects the brutality of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. However, these families will always be remembered by some of those who were their neighbors. How can you forget them? They are always in our hearts. We cannot forget them. Never. There is no way we can forget them, yet we pass here every day. He was called Gachire Epimake. He was a teacher and a very humble man. He was always at home with his children. He was friends with my father. Sometimes he could invite my father for a drink. The executive secretary of GRG, a genocide survivors organization that comprises of university graduates and other students in higher learning institutions, Sengiyaremye Fidel, says the organization has launched a study to identify families that were completely wiped out during the 1994 genocide perpetrated against the Tutsi from 2009 to 2019, which still continues, and the study has so far identified more than 15,000 families that have been wiped out, made up of more than 68,000 family members. Karongi and Nyamagabe districts have the highest number of wiped out families. Karongi district alone has more than 2,000 families that were wiped out during the genocide against the Tutsi, while Nyagatare district has 1 wiped out family, and Gatsibo district has 80 families that were completely wiped out. In the study we conducted, the north and the western provinces have the highest numbers of wiped out families. Karongi district has more than 2,000 families that were wiped out, and Nyamagabe district follows. According to the study, this can be linked to how the genocide against the Tutsi was executed and how it was stopped, because the Inkotanyi militia reached the 2 districts late, plus the zone turquoise, which favored perpetrators. When you talk to the survivors of the genocide against the Tutsi, they remember some of the members of wiped out families, mostly elders. This brings up worry that the families might be completely forgotten in the future. GRG Executive Secretary Fidel Nsengiyaremye says the worry will be addressed in the near future. Commemoration activities for those families will continue. The most important task now is to figure out a way through which these families will never be forgotten, because the study was meant to identify them. So we are now planning to write a book about those families. We will make documentaries explaining how those families were wiped out during the genocide against the Tutsi, plus making technological archives on those families and where they lived. It is not easy, because even during this research, people could hardly remember all the names of those family members that were wiped out, especially children. We will continue doing the research, which will facilitate us to get concrete information. The genocide against the Tutsi killed more than 1 million people, and remembering whole families that were completely wiped out is seen as one way of defeating the objective of the perpetrators, which was to annihilate a people.